Paul, can you tell us about these apps? Have they been broken into? The guy had some apps that were encrypted.
I think we've experienced a range of returns on this. Some of the applications that he was using online were encrypted in nature. Some of the email accounts.
Have we
that he
broken
was,
into them?
We've received returns. There are some that we have not been able to get information back because of their encrypted nature.
Is there any way to solve that problem?
Sir, Senator, we've talked about this before. We need a solution that provides lawful access to law
So
enforcement.
you're telling me the guy that took 8 shots at the president, former president, has apps that we can't get into that may, if you could get into, reveal some relevant information.
That is correct, Senator.
So if he were talking to some foreign power, and I don't think any foreign power would hire this guy, by the way. So I'm not overly worried this was some great plot by the Iranians because they couldn't even think of this. However, there could come a day where something like this is very important. How do we solve this problem?
Senator, as we've been saying, we need a solution that provides lawful access where when we go to
So
a
you're
company.
telling me, I agree with you. I'm not blaming you. We have encrypted apps of an assassin, a murderer, and we can't get into them all these days after. That needs to be fixed, folks. I'm all for privacy, but to a point. What if in the future somebody's using these apps to communicate with a foreign power? I think we need to know these things. We need to know them in real time. So lessons learned is that everything failed. Corrective action. Seems to me you need more money and more people. Accountability. At the end of the day, how many people do you think will be relieved of their duties, Mr. Rowe, because of this?
0.
Senator, I publicly cannot, and I cannot weigh in on that right now, right? It has to be a fair and neutral
Absolutely.
process.
From
right?
a fair point of view, would you say this is a major system failure at every turn, and those in charge of the system in question, not only was it embarrassing, they failed?
So, Senator, again, if there were policy violations, those individuals will be held accountable and they will be subject
Just
to
send
our
us the
table of
policies
penalties.
if you could.
Yes, sir,
Thank
we
you.
will. But they will be held to our table of penalties, which
you.
will include
No.
up to termination.
Thank you.
Senator Holy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That's what we hear. And we keep hearing about that. We've been hearing about it, but nothing has been done. The accountability is just not there. They have no intention of firing anyone. I would be surprised if anybody does actually get fired from everything that happened here. If this was anybody else, if this was a private security team, do you think that private security team would have fired that person? Unless this was part of the plan, unless this went exactly how it was supposed to go. And this is the problem. I don't believe they were looking for this. I don't believe this was part of the plan. This was part of God's plan, but this was not part of the plan, in my opinion, of whoever, whatever, wanted to make this happen. They have apps, they have encrypted apps. So how can they say that Crooks they have no information, Crooks wasn't involved with anyone, this looks like a lone gunman? How can they say that when they can't get into these apps? How can they say that when there is photos of Crooks looking at his cell phone during this whole time? How can they say that? How can they be so sure that there was nobody else involved? They can't be. But as soon as they come out and they say that, that's what is making people wonder. I believe that's what makes me wonder. There must be more to this. Maybe there is more to this. Why aren't they at least open to the possibility that there may be more to this, that this may not just be this lone gunman? We're supposed to believe, just like Lee Harvey Oswald, we're supposed to believe this lone gunman got lucky and got off 8 shots before anybody was able to take this person out. It's hard to buy, and they know this, and they understand where we're coming from. And they understand that the secrecy, the more that they try to hide, the more that they try to deflect, and the more that we see nobody's going to be fired for this. Because if you fire somebody, guess what that person is going to come out and say? This is going to be CYA. Cover your A. And you're going to see a lot of people blow the whistle. So as long as you don't fire them, that whistle is not going to be blown. I think a lot of people understand that. I think you understand that. And I think they understand that. We understand that too. I don't believe this was the plan. This is what happened. And this probably scares them because they had a plan and it didn't go according to their plan. As we can see, as we will see. But if there are apps that crooks had, these encrypted apps that the law enforcement, the feds, they can't get into, they can't break into, then how do they know that Crooks wasn't talking to somebody else? Why would he have these encrypted apps and there's no trail to anybody else? No, the reason for the encrypted apps is because there is a trail leading to a bigger plan that is bigger than Crooks, that is bigger than this lone gunman theory. And they got two problems here. The first problem they have is if Trump gets into office, he's going to have access to whatever they have. So it's a pump and dump. They got to dump all of this data. It's still going to be hard for them to dump all of this data because there are going to be good Secret Service people out there. There has already been a lot of good law enforcement people out there who are not necessarily blowing the whistle, but just saying, hey, this is what happened. And this is why it's so important to try to document what we know, what can be proven, what they have said. And sometimes it's best. In this case, I believe this is another one of those cases. It's best to start there, like Mark Lane started. Mark Lane investigating JFK's murder started with what did they say, and then broke it down from there. We don't need to create wild conspiracy theories or anything like that, because the most wild conspiracy theory is the one that is being conspired to say that this is a lone gunman theory. That is going to be one of the biggest conspiracy theories you will ever hear. When you think of conspiracy theory, they don't want you to think that a conspiracy theory could actually be this lone gunman theory. If you have multiple people conspiring to create a lone gunman theory, that is a conspiracy theory. They don't want us to look that deep. And I get it. I understand why. You understand why. After everything that we've seen, after all the stuff that has happened, not just with Trump, but with JFK, with RFK Sr., and just Reagan. I mean, Lincoln. How far back do you want to go to really see how these conspiracy theories, how they manifest into something that is then created, that turns into the official theory? And that's what we're seeing here, that a conspiracy theory is turning into the official theory to say that this was a lone gunman, this guy got lucky. No, people aren't buying it, and for good reason. That's why the media is just trying to drop it. Their focus is on anything but what happened on July 13th, 2024. So we're not going to let that die. It's just not going to happen. And books that I'm writing, this short little book that I'm writing called Fight, Fight, Fight on this topic, will just be one little seed, one little small piece that will document what they say. And that's what we're going to go over here. We're going to go over some of these very important things, like some of the early stuff, like Chuck Grassley, Senator Chuck Grassley. This is from July 29th, 2024. Grassley oversight unveils most detailed picture yet of Trump assassination attempt. even if you just read this, even if you just look at this stuff, it's very damning. This really breaks it down. We don't have to get into, the speculation or anything like that. It is very important, at least for me, it's very important to start right here to look at what they say. And that's another reason why, for me, it's very important to look at the 4 hearings, the 4 congressional hearings that were held, to getting these people under oath and seeing what they said and seeing what happened then, what was done, what happened and what didn't happen. You start with the Grassley Oversight Summary. This is really good stuff here. Very good stuff. July 8th, the Beaver County Emergency Service Unit team leaders received a request to cover the July 13th Trump rally. Then you just click on that and it takes you right to the text. You can go to grassley.senate.gov and you'll find this here, news releases. You click on it, it takes you right to where you need to go. It shows you the actual text messages that you can read back and forth. Gentlemen, we have been requested by Butler to assist with the Trump rally on Saturday, Butler Fairgrounds, as QRF. It is probably going to be a 12-hour detail. Right now, I'm looking for 6 guys available. If absolutely needed, we can split the shift. And this is very important here, where he says, if absolutely needed, we can split the shift, because this shift will be split. And this is another interesting thing, because here's what we know. There were actually 5 snipers. There were 2 Secret Service snipers, and there were 3 local law enforcement snipers that were there on scene. 1 left before Trump showed up. But you still had 4. In the same building that the 2 local law enforcement snipers are at is the same building where Crooks crawls up to the roof and takes a shot, multiple shots, at President Trump. There were 10 shots fired that day. 8 were by Crooks. The first 8 were by him. Okay, then you have someone on the ground, a local law enforcement person on the ground, who fires the 9th shot at Crooks, sees him close to where Trump was. He sees Crooks. He fires a shot at Crooks. Misses, obviously. The 10th shot is the sniper, the Secret Service sniper that takes Crooks out. So there were 10 shots fired that day, as far as we know. This is why you may see that there were shots coming from different areas or whatever. But this is what we are being told right now. This guy was able to get off 8 shots before anyone even fired back. Not only that, but the first volley was just 3 shots. Then there was a pause. Then there was 5 more shots. Then a guy on the ground, a local law enforcement on the ground, shoots at Crooks. And then the sniper in Hercules 2, I believe, takes him out. We're going to go through all of that. But if you do want to look at all of those documents, all of that data, you can find some amazing data just by looking at Chuck Grassley and what he has here. And I'm just going to cut right down to the post-shooting. There is a report. This report is, I think, about 24 pages, 23 pages here. So let me see if I can share this. This is the former POTUS After Action Beaver County ESU SWAT. This is their report. This shows you everything you need to know about this. You can see Secret Service, Hercules 1. That is where the sniper was posted that eventually shot Crooks, from my understanding. Then you have Hercules 2. So you can see Secret Service, Hercules 1, Secret Service, Hercules 2. This is right where Trump was speaking. Not where the star is, but on the other side, on the left-hand side. Then if you go north, there were 2 snipers. there was a ESU, there was a Beaver and a Butler County sniper on the same building. But the problem is they were not, these two snipers up here to your upper left, these snipers were not on top of the building. They were inside of the building. So just I mean, that is some crazy stuff. It's one of the things that makes me think maybe, this was just some lone nut who knew how to get up there. It's one of the only things that makes me think that may be the case. But I still believe Crooks had to have had help. There's no way he could have done this knowing where everybody was. I mean, he flew a drone that day. There's so many different things that we're going to cover going through what happened, what they know. But this image right here speaks volumes. This tells you pretty much everything you need to know about who was where, who fired what, and you can clearly see that Hercules 2, Secret Service Hercules 2, does not have a clear shot. All right, look at this. Secret Service Hercules 2. I know it's very, very blurry. But then when you look at where Crooks was on the north, and you can see there's a lot of bushes there. There's a lot of trees there. But Secret Service Hercules 1, that is the one that probably took Crooks out. All right, so just keep that in mind there. They go through some of the sectors. They go through this timeline, which we are going to go through here over the next couple days. But you can clearly see this is a great one. This is on page 7 of 23. BCESU sniper. Then you have Butler County sniper, and you can see where the stage is. Again, Hercules 1, Hercules 2. Okay, and this is just crazy to think that, they didn't have anybody on this roof here, but they had two snipers inside of the building and other people, other law enforcement inside of that building, apparently. And the two snipers, there's photos that show where those two snipers were, what their line of sight was, who they were focused on, who they were looking at. So all of this goes back. Even over here on the left-hand side, you have the crowd screening. You have this control thing. You have the Washington County sniper down here. So maybe you got 6 snipers there, you may say, right? So I don't know. It's all wild to think, because this Washington County sniper would have had the best eyes on Crooks. But we are told that it's the Secret Service Hercules sniper is the one that took Crooks out. All of this is valid. All of this is very important to understand. Then they go through who this guy is. You can see him clearly on his phone here. The question, they say, well, who is he talking to? What is he doing? Is he examining the site? Is he looking at someone? Is he getting instructions? And so for them to say that he has encrypted apps, we can't get into it. They don't know what he's doing here then. They have no idea if he's talking to somebody here, or if he's just going through, if he's live streaming, if he's watching Trump. They're not really sure what he's doing there. Then we have this bike, because we were told he had a car. There was a van. Now there's a bike. Well, even if let's get rid of the van, because it seems like they want to drop the van that was there on the site. Let's drop the van. Even if this guy pulled up in a car, how does his bike get there? So he has a car. There's a bike. The bike has a backpack. You can clearly see that. What's in the bike? What's in the backpack? Somebody dropped this off. More questions that just go through this. How does this just get here? It just seemed like if somebody was helping Crooks, which I definitely think happened, that they left a bunch of things. Say, go to this meeting point. We're going to drop these things off. Boom. This is what you do. Be ready. You just never know. You never know. So you can see here on page 11 where that backpack was, where the bicycle was, and see how close this was. This is where they saw this. This is all this guy does is has to go onto these rooftops move around on these roofs and get into position. You can see where the suspect was first spotted here, but they definitely had eyes on this bicycle and this backpack. And Crooks was here. He had a car somewhere, according to the text messages. That car was parked here somewhere, seemed like. So what is going on? We're not getting the information. They want this story to die down, and it's not going to happen. On page 12, you get the direction of travel from that picnic table. Crooks is at this picnic table, and they see him at this picnic table, probably because there's a sniper right there that's like, hey, or somebody is there in that area. We got this weird guy, his case in the joint, basically. So they understand that. And Crooks goes all of this way just to get back to where he is going to end up firing at point 1. So he doesn't go to this area here. He goes back to get and starts jumping on these roofs like a roof jumper, basically. So then you have the cars over here on the right-hand side, the two police officers, one marked car and one unmarked car that are both there. And they go and they're told, hey, there's some suspicious person on the other side next to where the rally is. So they go and look at that. And it's just crazy how all of this ends up being exactly almost right on top of where these snipers were. So I don't know if there were 3 snipers here. And the third sniper, the third local sniper is the one that, had to leave early. Then we have some shots fired. So it's a very detailed thing that you can, again, find at grassley.senate.gov. And let me see, I'll put this in the chat here too, in case anybody wants to go and look at that. If you have not seen it, it's very powerful stuff. So I'm just going to put that there. And then let me put the news release in the chat as well, so you can get the full thing. But it covers it all. It covers everything that you need to know, at least to get started here. And you may have heard other stuff. You may have watched all the videos, et cetera, et cetera. But if you haven't looked at this, this is what we need to start with first. So again, you have the Washington County sniper over here. So you have 5 snipers there. So I thought all 3 snipers were kind of up here where the suspect was, but maybe they just had 2 snipers in the upper side, and then they had this one sniper, the Washington County sniper, which may have been the one that had to leave early. It's still unclear to me who left when, but we know that there were 5 snipers at one point and 4 when this guy got his 8 shots off. So you can see all of that. But the maps, for me, the maps really help kind of give you this clear view of what happened when. And it's crazy to think where the suspect is. Look, this is where the suspect is shot dead. I think it's 6:12 p.m. on spot 1. So he's climbing around, right? He's over here. This is where the bicycle backpack is. Kind of where number 4 is where this bench, this park bench. He's on the park bench, doesn't have any weapon, doesn't have a backpack there. He's not seen with the backpack. If he goes over to this bicycle, that could be why he goes that way, to get the backpack, to get the ammo, to get the gun, to get whatever, to bring it all there. Then climb through 5, 6, go down to 4. Make his way to 3, to 2. That could be why in those videos that we see the Crooks moving back and forth, right? He's moving around. Now, he could have been moving on 2 and 3. He could have been moving on where we see 1, but more than likely he's probably moving from 2, then getting to 3. That's why his head kind of drops down as if he's gone for a couple seconds, because it's at a lower level. And then we see him, as Trump is speaking, we see this guy moving about. If that's Crooks that is moving about. So the speculation just can go wild, but if you just focus on these 23 pages, you can really get a good, clear picture of the official theory from the local law enforcement. Then you compare that to what the feds say. You compare that to what the Secret Service says, to what the FBI says, because now this puts the FBI and the Secret Service in a very important spot here, where they have to build their theory that we're going to hear probably in the next month or so. Whatever the official theory is from the feds, from the Secret Service, whatever they are going to end up telling us has to be based on what we are seeing here, on what the local law enforcement documents are saying right here. If it's not, there's going to be a problem. We've already heard about problems. We've seen some problems. But if they come out with their official theory, that probably take another month or whatever. I don't know why the local law enforcement could create something so quickly, but the feds can't, the Secret Service can't. And it's all right here, unless they know something, unless they're going to say their story is different. So it was really great that local law enforcement was able to quickly come out and get this, and that Senator Chuck Grassley was able to get this information and get it to the public so that we could have it now. Very good stuff. And then it goes through, he's dead, and it's kind of lax. The Secret Service agent, you can see, dude is just like chilling in the corner back there. He's on his phone too, right? It's like no rush for anything. At this point, shooter's down, it's done. They take this out of Crooks's pocket. They take his cell phone out. Looks like a Samsung cell phone. And then they also take this device. Now, this could be, they say, maybe it's a detonator. Maybe it's related to the drone he was flying around. I don't believe it's related to that drone. And it's just numbers. That's all it is. It's a remote control. That's it. But it has blood on it. There's a little bit of blood on it. So was it in his hand? Was it just in his pocket? It just got bloody afterwards. That's another thing. We don't really know, but the blood on it is pretty interesting. And maybe it's because it's from that pocket there. Had a Duracell battery in it. I mean, it's a coordinated plan. It's a very coordinated plan that they had. All right, they did the facial recognition. Obviously, that's probably the image that shows it all. But here they go. Last known where the suspect was. They lose him in this last known spot. They say the direction of travel in the suspect, kind of avoiding where this bicycle in this backpack is. But I'm glad that they mentioned that there was a bicycle and this backpack. There's a ladder over here. There's another tactical ladder that comes up later. The black one comes up later, but we don't know what this main roof ladder after, it says after incident there. So this Crooks had to have known this, or somebody told him exactly what to do, where to go. So that is what we have for this specific document there. But again, if you do want to go and check that out, you can go to grassley.senate.gov, and then in the news, this is from, look up the news releases from 7/29, and it's going to give you everything that he has here. You click on the blue text, and it's going to give you the text messages. It's going to give you the detailed plan, the detailed plan prior to what happened. It's going to give you some photos, text messages, but the most important thing is what we just went through, which is the final report right there. So there you go. Now we can always go back to some other things. Hopefully those links are working in the chat. And we can go look at what I found very interesting here. Senator Hawley. Let's go look at what he's got to say. Make sure this is 480. Oh, gotta change that.
Director Rowe, can you put your first poster, your first demonstrative back up?
Please put A up, please.
Just make sure everybody can see it. This is the photograph, I believe, that you took, your team took of the roof, the AGR roof. Yeah, that's the one. Okay, so from this vantage point, as the law enforcement who are in those windows, as they look left, they should be able to see the shooter clearly there on the AGR second floor roof. My question is, why is there not a Secret Service counter sniper on that roof?
So Senator, when we post up, our methodology is to look at things that can see in on our protectees so that they can provide that coverage.
But why is there not a Secret Service counter sniper there with clear line of sight? That roof has a clear line of sight to the former president. Why didn't you put a Secret Service counter sniper there?
The Secret Service's counter sniper role is to neutralize those threats that are looking in on us from where the protectee is, not necessarily.
You think maybe you might want to revise that protocol? And
I mean, we're really supposed to think that they just, oh, we only put the sniper over here. We only put the sniper looking a certain way. No, they had another sniper like we saw over here. And I'll go back to that you can clearly see that they had this other sniper for the Washington, where is he at? Yeah, the Washington County sniper. They had that sniper was not looking the other way. They had one looking that way, looking towards this stage. They had two snipers over here looking towards that stage. Now the Secret Service, like he's saying, the Secret Service, we just look out, right? We just look one way. Bull crap. There's no reason why they couldn't have had other snipers anywhere. Like there's a reason for the Washington County sniper down here. There's a reason for the other two snipers that we see at the top. Where is it? Right here, the Butler County sniper and then the BCESU sniper. So they had snipers there in all of those areas. He's not going to talk about that. He's not going to say, well, yeah, we had snipers inside the building. So, it's cool. Because Holly's question is, why didn't you have them outside on the top? I'm sorry, Cotton, Mr. Cotton. I got the name wrong. Okay. So why didn't you have those there, right? I don't. Oh no, it is Holly. Sorry, I just saw Cotton down here at the bottom. Obviously, I don't have my notes with me.
What happened here?
They were protecting the principal, and I think
The principal got shot.
Understand that, sir.
So do you think you might want to revise the protocol? Let me ask you this. Who is the lead site agent?
The lead site agent. This is a big deal because Josh Hawley is going to talk about, I think he spoke with Jesse Waters on Fox News, and he has had some whistleblowers who talked about the lead site agent, even going as far as to say that the Trump's team knew about this lead site agent, and they knew that this person was not competent, and they were already kind of frustrated by this person, the lead site agent, the Secret Service lead site agent, being a part of this, according to Josh Hawley, according to what whistleblowers told Senator Josh Hawley. So this is a very important question because at this point, Hawley knows exactly the answer, but he wants to get something out of Roe. And Roe is just kind of, I don't know. He's just angry. He's frustrated. It's like, dude, I don't know.
Who made the decision to leave the AGR building completely outside of the security perimeter? Who was that?
Senator, I cannot give you that name. This person is operational. They're still doing investigations. They're still doing protective visits.
They're being relieved of duty.
They're still operational. They're still doing investigation. This person, the incompetence of the lead site agent to not put somebody up there. If you're competent to say, yeah, we're going to put somebody on those buildings, we're going to put them inside of the buildings, but we're not going to put them on top of the buildings. We're not going to put anybody on top of that building, but we're going to put them inside. That seems a little bit strange to me, and that just doesn't seem right. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Let's keep going.
Senator, they have not been relieved of duty. I know their name, by the way.
Why have they not been relieved of duty?
Yeah.
They are still cooperating, not only being interviewed by the FBI, but also by our Office of Professional Responsibility. And we will let the facts of the mission assurance and any further investigations play out.
Is it isn't the fact that a former president was shot, that a good American is dead, that other Americans were critically wounded, isn't that enough mission failure for you to say that the
There's no accountability. These people just feel like they have no accountability, and that all starts with Biden and goes down from there, because there is no reason for that. They know they're not going to be fired. They know that there's going to be no accountability. Nobody's going to be fired for this, but they should be. Somebody
the
should.
person who decided that that building should not be in the security perimeter probably ought to be stepped down.
Senator, I think you're using the word decided, and I think we need to allow the investigation play out to
So
include.
who did make the decision then? If it wasn't the lead site agent, who made the decision not to put that in the security perimeter?
Senator, you're zeroing in on one particular agent. I want to find out exactly what was the entire decision process. So I think I want to be neutral and make sure that we get to the bottom of it and interview everybody in order to determine if there was more than one person who perhaps exercised bad judgment.
Well, sure. My question is, why don't you relieve everybody of duty who made bad judgment? So yeah, you're right. I am zeroing in on somebody. I'm trying to find somebody who's accountable here.
And
you're telling me that the person who made the decision not to include this in the perimeter has not been relieved of duty. What about the person who's in charge of the interoperability of radio frequencies between local law enforcement and Secret Service? Has that person been relieved of duty?
No, Senator, because interoperability
All they're going to do, they're just going to let people step down. That's it. Because again, if they start firing people, the people that they fire are going to deviate from their theory, from what they want, from their CYA, from what the Secret Service wants us to think happened. And not the people that were next to Trump, not those Secret Service, but at the higher up, at the higher level, the ones who are running this. And if this doesn't go back to someone in the Biden administration, someone, I just don't buy it. This is an inside job here. What happened with Trump has got to be an inside job at some level. And that's why it's very important to understand what they say. We can look at other cases and we can look at things that we think happened. We can look at what we saw, the eyewitness, all that stuff is very, very valid. But when it comes down to what they say, that's why there has been so much hesitation and it took so long. Remember, the first hearing didn't happen. And we had 3 back-to-back within 3 days. One where the Secret Service director resigned when she should have been fired. But who's going to fire her? Who would that have been? Biden? Yeah, he ain't going to do that. So this event happens on July 13th. The first hearing is held on July 21st, I believe, that Monday, the following Monday, after the RNC National Convention to officially nominate President Donald Trump as a Republican nominee. And then after that happens, that following Monday is when we have 3 back-to-back hearings. The hearing that you're seeing right now didn't happen till July 30th. So that's not too long ago, 17 days ago. And here we are still right now, still trying to figure out all of these various things. So for me, the most important thing is you go focus on those 4 hearings. Listen to what they say under oath, because that's what matters. That's where you want to start to find their lies, because they can say whatever they want outside of that, and they will. We'll go through some of that too. But when they start talking about things under oath, that's where it really matters. That's where you can really hammer them, because their official theory that they're working on that may not come out for another month or so, who knows, but that theory, if it is not based on what we see here, if it is not based on what the documents say, all of the evidence shows, it just feels like to me they're trying to get their story right, because they were not expecting Trump to live. They were not expecting him to pump his fist, to get up, because he went down. Trump went down. And I don't believe they were expecting him to get up. I don't know if I was expecting him to get up watching it in about a delay, couple minute delay. But I don't know if I was expecting Trump to get up, but he got back up. And that's what matters. And I think after that point, whatever the script was had to be thrown out and they had to create a whole new script. Well, if you start firing people now, those people they may tell some interesting stories. That's how you create whistleblowers. They're usually disgruntled people who have been wronged, who have been termed for the wrong reason. So you start doing that, and stories start changing. If you keep them on your team, then they're still on your team, and there's still rules that they have to do, and it's a great way to make sure they still get a paycheck, and it's a great way to make sure that they fall in line with whatever your official theory is. And I believe that's what we are seeing here. That's what we are going to continue to see. So Ronald Rowe can sit there with his nice haircut and his nice tie and his nice suit and his little pin and act like he really gives a crap about what happened. But you know what? The truth is going to come out. And Senator Josh Hawley is really good at hammering this guy here for another 4 minutes, as we're going to see.
The challenge is a greater challenge than just one person. On that day, we had a counterpart system. It failed
As the
spectacularly.
person who made the decision to send Donald Trump onto stage, knowing that you had a security situation, has that person been relieved of duty?
No, sir, they haven't.
As the
because-
person who decided not to pull the former president off of stage when you knew that, in your words, the locals were working a serious security situation, has that person been relieved of duty?
Nope.
No, sir. Again, I refer you back to my original answer that we are
No.
investigating this through a mission assurance. And as opposed to zeroing
That's fine to investigate, to continue to look at it, but to not relieve them, to let them continue to keep doing their job, to potentially make future mistakes. That's a big deal. And that really shows, like, what does it take to get fired? What does it take for you to say, hey, we got to let you go. We got to have you at least on some administrative leave or something, right? Every time that a police officer is involved in a shooting, he gets put on administrative leave. Every time that a UFC fighter finishes a fight, they are suspended, meaning they cannot fight until they are healed, until everything is good. We're not seeing that here. With the Secret Service, they messed up, and all those people who messed up can not only get to keep their job, but they get to continue working, and potentially they get to continue to make more mistakes with no accountability. Accountability is what we are looking for here. And we're not seeing that. We're not seeing that. Even with the Secret Service Director Cheadle, the cheater, she resigned. She resigned. There was no firing. There was no accountability. You resign. And that's it. You resign and you go home. No accountability here.
in on one.
What more do
or
you need
two
to
individuals.
investigate
We wanna
to
find out
know
exactly what the
What more do you
decision-making
need to
process was.
investigate to know that there were critical enough failures that some individuals ought to be held accountable? I mean, what more do you need to know?
What I need to know is exactly what happened, and I need my investigators to do their job. And I cannot,
people didn't do their
I cannot
jobs.
put my thumb on the scale. Otherwise,
What do you mean put your thumb on
the
the scale?
objective, you're asking me, Senator, to completely make a rush to judgment about somebody failing. I acknowledge this was a failure of the
Is it
Secret
not
Service.
prima facie that somebody has failed? A former president was shot.
Sir, this could have been our
Exactly.
Texas School Book Depository. I have lost sleep over that for the
That's an
last
interesting
17
thing.
days,
Then
just like you
fire
have.
somebody.
Listen what he said. That could have been our school book depository. I think that's what they wanted. I really think that was the plan, was that this was supposed to be another Kennedy incident. Not only for President Trump, but you have another guy, the other guy who is running for president right now, who just happens to be the nephew of the guy who was shot and killed in a similar manner. on top of a building, from a window of a building, whatever you want to say. It's very similar. This would have been a big blow here. Who would the Republicans have chosen if President Trump would have been killed? President Trump did not have a vice presidential nominee at that point. Who would it have been? Would it have been Biden and Kennedy? And then who would the Republicans have chosen? Nikki Haley, because she got the most delegates, the second most delegates from Trump. Is that the whole purpose of the Republican nomination and why they had Nikki Haley in the running, the neocon Nikki Haley? There's so many different things. Nikki Haley, George Bush, Texas, school book depository, RFK Jr. involved in this race. All of these things, a headshot to Trump, a clear line of sight. I don't believe Oswald had a clear line of sight on President John F. Kennedy, but I think you understand what I'm saying. There's actually some other issues there. Let me continue on before I get way too off topic, because I'm already off.
Depository. I have lost sleep over that for the last 17 days,
Then
just like you
fire
have.
somebody
And
to
I will
hold
tell
them
you,
accountable.
Senator, I will tell you, Senator, that I will not rush to judgment, that people will be held accountable, and I will do so with integrity.
Rush to Judgment, one of the greatest books you'll ever read about President John F. Kennedy. Rush to Judgment by Mark Lane. It's pretty interesting stuff here. This all seems to go back to Kennedy. Now, let's remember, it wasn't that long ago that President Trump said when he gets back in office, he's going to release these documents. He's going to release the JFK documents. We've heard it before. He's going to release a 9/11 document. We've heard that before. But he's got the motive to do it now. He's got the motive not to hold back now. Because after what they did with Trump, with all these court cases and everything, the biggest FU that Trump could do is to put those documents out there, to lay it all out there for the people. And what Trump should do is just say what he knows about the JFK documents, if there's anything strange, anything suspicious, and say what he knows about the 9/11 documents, if there's anything strange, anything suspicious. We're coming up on 9/11. We're coming up on the JFK death again. So we have September and we have November. Both of these things are coming up before President Trump takes office. And he's got a good chance. I don't think he's going to talk about 9/11 until he gets in office. If he does, it's hard for me to believe, and I'm a Trump supporter, but it's hard for me to believe Trump is really going to release anything about the 9/11 documents, because I don't think they have anything in the public documents. Maybe they do. I don't believe that they do. But even what they have with the JFK documents is bad. Even the stuff that we already have is bad. So what more documents could they possibly have to show that John F. Kennedy was murdered as a conspiracy, not by a lone gunman? They must have something. There must be something there. But even what they release shows that there was something there. It just doesn't name key players, because maybe those players are informants or related to informants, or it's going to put their family in jeopardy, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't believe we're going to find any document in the JFK or in the 9/11 that is going to say, hey, this is who did it or whatever. Oh, yeah, the government, we did it for this reason and blah, blah, blah. I don't believe we're going to find that smoking gun. I'd be happy if we did, but I don't believe that smoking gun is going to be found. But what we have already is bad. And so if there's more information that they are withholding, it can only lead credence to some of these theories about what happened with John F. Kennedy and about what happened on 9/11. No, I don't believe they're holding back things that are going to help prove the official theory. So if they're holding back stuff, it's it's got to be stuff against their theory. And I think all of you already know that.
And not rush to judgment and put people
I can't believe
unfairly
that you are
persecuted.
unfairly persecuted. We've got
Unfairly,
people
sir.
who are
We
dead.
have to be able to have a proper investigation into this, Senator.
You
Senator's right. He's unfairly persecuted. We have people that are dead. There are people that are dead. They deserve justice, accountability. Nobody's been fired. Nobody's been disciplined. They're just going along, walking along, singing a song side by side.
Proper investigation into this, Senator.
You said earlier that you've got to make sure that your protocols are followed. And unless there's a protocol violation, people wouldn't be disciplined. I would just say to you, I don't really care that much about your protocols. I think if your protocols don't provide for the fact that when a former president is shot, when an American is killed, when other rally goers, innocent people who just showed up on the day, when they are shot at and critically wounded, if that isn't a protocol violation prima facie, you should revise your protocols.
Yep.
Senator, I think this is where you and I agree. This was a failure, and we will get to the bottom of it.
Well, I hope you're going to do something about it. Let me ask you something else. The Real Clear Politics reports this morning that you were directly involved in denying additional security resources and personnel, including counter snipers, not just to this event, but over the last 2 years, that President Trump's team repeatedly asked for these additional resources, and you personally were involved in denying them. Is that true?
Senator, as I stated earlier, that is not true.
So you never denied any resources to former President Trump's team?
No, not me. No, sir.
And
Not
you
personally.
weren't involved in any of that?
Not me.
You were never
personally.
involved in the decision
See how he
making?
says.
No, sir, I was not.
Let me ask you this one.
He says, not me personally. So he, again, accountability, avoiding accountability, because he knows who was involved in that. And because he's not fired, because now he's in this spot here, he's like, hey, he's taking the reins. This is all just craziness, bait and switch stuff, but it's all good to have it documented. And the problem with these hearings is they are so long, and I've been trying to, as I can, kind of cut some of these. I didn't cut this one, but I've been trying to cut some of this stuff up to make it easy. And that's what the book that I'm writing about is called, Fight, Fight, Fight. And it's just going to cover, it's going to be a very short book that is going to coincide with the Kennedy and Trump book. That's why I'm adding it to this podcast here, because it is related. And then, like I was talking with Catherine, and she's given me some very good feedback of how this is related to the Kennedy and Trump book. You can either make this a part of the book, or add it as its own separate chapter, its own separate thing to the book. And so we'll see where I go with that. I'm still leaning towards just kind of having it as its own little separate side book that I may even throw into the final Kennedy and Trump book, because it's so important. It's such an important thing. What happened, what we know, and I know we're going to see it in the next year. You're going to see a lot of great authors, a lot of great writers, the same writers who are going to write a lot of great books on this. And I figure, well, I'm trying to document this too. Why don't I just turn it into a short little book for people who just want to get some of those facts and who just want a nice, simple, easy, clean rundown of what we know. Seems cool to me, and I love writing. I'm going to do it anyways. Might as well share it with the public.
Or two other things here quickly. Well, whistleblowers tell me that, in fact, law enforcement were stationed to be on that roof, and that law enforcement abandoned their post because it was too hot. Is that accurate?
Uh-oh.
Senator, I have heard that as well. They posted up inside. And I think moving forward,
That's good. That's good that he says they posted up inside. Now, he didn't say that there were 2 snipers inside those buildings, which there were, but it's good that he says they posted up inside. Nobody was outside, but you have 2 Hercules, 2 Secret Service snipers who were outside, and you have a Washington County sniper who was outside. So it wasn't that hot.
as I said earlier, we're going to ensure that state and local counter snipers are on roofs.
But do you know if someone was supposed to be on the roof? Do you know if someone was in fact? That's what the whistleblowers tells me. That may or may not be accurate. Do you know that to be the fact? Was somebody posted to the roof, local law enforcement or whomever?
I do not know that to be a fact.
Well, can I ask you why you don't know that?
Again, Senator, we are looking at this and they should have been on that roof. And the fact that they were in the building is something that I'm still trying to understand.
I just want to express my frustration, Director, that 17 days or whatever it's been, that whistleblowers are telling us more than you are, and you don't know, you haven't ascertained if there was supposed to be law enforcement on the roof. That seems like a pretty basic fact. I'm also told.
I think this is kind of where I may kind of try to defend Roe a little bit. Is he's got to go through a lot of stuff. He's got to go through a lot of things to create a timeline, which he does later on, which is still kind of weird. But at least he did a press conference a couple days after this hearing here in early August. So he did do a 40-minute press conference timeline, but obviously they're still going through this. They're still going through all this. It's a lot to go through. So, and to kind of sift through what is accurate, what is real, what can we prove, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what I love about the Chuck Grassley documents here, is that it really, like, if you really just want to, go back to not forget what you've heard and everything like that, but just kind of, if you want to go back, and I did this with the David Crowley case, it's like, you go so far with the Crowley case and you go so far with any of these cases, JFK, 9/11, that at some point you've gone so far, you're like, I got to go back. I want to start over again. I want to start back. I want to refresh. You want to hit the restart a little bit, and you refresh and go back, knowing what you've already need. You take into account everything you've already researched, all that stuff, but you go back and you read it for a second time. It's like watching a great movie for the second time. And things start to click, things start to make sense that didn't make sense prior. You start to understand, oh, wait a minute. Okay, what they say here was wrong. What they say here was right. And it's a great way to do research. And so what Secret Service Director Rowe now has to do, he has to pour through a lot of information and then create this timeline, and he has to decide what is true, what is not, what can be proven, what is speculation, et cetera, et cetera. And there's going to be a lot of he said, she said. You're going to see a lot of that stuff. And if this is a conspiracy, which I believe that this was, there's also going to be a lot of disinformation put out there purposely to distract from the truth, to lead him into other routes, down other rabbit holes, fake rabbit holes, false rabbit holes, to avoid him to get to the truth, if he really sincerely wants to get to the truth. And I kind of, watching him during this 4-hour this 4-hour hearing and then the 1-hour press conference, tend to believe maybe he does really want to get to the truth. He's not sure what happened. He does seem angry. I don't feel like he's angry because he got busted or he got caught. I feel like he's kind of in the spot now where he's got to figure out what happened. And we'll see. We'll see where he goes from here. But I'm very curious. There's only like another 40 seconds of this video. It's a good one.
That local
By the way, this is a great senator that we're seeing here.
law enforcement suppliers offered the Secret Service drones and you declined them. Is that true?
So Senator, one, I've been very transparent and forthcoming.
Your agency has not been transparent and forthcoming, so please, let's not go there.
I have been forthcoming, sir.
That remains to be seen. You've been on the job a few days. So far, you've fired nobody. Now, the drones.
Thank you,
Were
Senator.
you offered drones?
Senator
So there
Hawley.
was an offer to fly a drone on that day.
And why did you deny it?
Again, I think the ability of local law enforcement to provide an asset, we probably should have taken them up on it if it was offered.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing. I'm glad that he got that in about the drones, because we know that Crooks was able to fly a drone. I'm going to pull that up next, because part of the book that I'm writing is going to cover. I'm just trying to document. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to say, hey, this is what happened. I know what happened. The book that I'm writing is to document what we know, is to help researchers so that way they can see, okay, this is what we know. This is what they're telling us, et cetera, et cetera. And so let me go to some of that because we know that Crooks had a drone on that day. Now, how does this dude have a drone on that day? He flies it on the day while there are people who are, let me see, let me go back here. There are people who are probably building this stage. There's Secret Service that were there that didn't talk to anybody else. There's everybody there. Nobody sees this drone that Crooks is flying that morning. It's crazy. It's crazy to think that that is where we're at. But you know what? That's where we're at here. So I don't know. I got the open line. If anybody does want to join live, please feel free to jump on here. I'd be more than happy to have anybody else. If anybody has any thoughts, anybody wants to share anything about this, I'm going to go here for maybe another 20, 30 minutes or so. Like I said, I have been working on a book, just a very short book. It's going to be a very small book, but just to kind of document what we know so far, what is happening, and just the stuff that we know is fascinating. I mean, it's and baffling in some cases. So we get the first official timeline. This came from acting Secret Service Director Ronald Rowe during a press conference on August 2nd, 2024. This is 20 days after 20-year-old engineering science graduate Thomas Matthew Crooks tried to assassinate President Donald J. Trump during a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. At the time, Crooks worked as a dietary aide at Bethel Park Skilled Nursing and Rehabilitation Center, making $16 an hour. Crooks lived an hour away from the July 13th rally in Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. Now, to vote in the 2024 Republican closed primary election, Crooks had to register as a Republican. It's not clear who Crooks voted for, but I'm guessing it wasn't for President Trump. More interesting, and it may have been for Nikki Haley. I'm just guessing. There's other people on the ballot there, but more interesting, Crooks' parents, both social workers, were not Republicans. Crooks' dad was a registered libertarian, and his mother was a registered Democrat. On July 20th, 2021, Joe Biden's inauguration day, if you want to call it that, Crooks donated $15 to Progressive Turnout Project. According to their website, turnoutpac.org, Progressive Turnout Project is the largest voter contact organization in the country, specifically dedicated to mobilizing the Democratic Party and defending democracy. Crooks was 17 at the time. Crooks later unsubscribed from PTP 2 years ago, according to a Progressive Turnout Project spokesperson. Democracy. According to testimony by FBI Deputy Director Paul Abate, on July 3rd, the rally in Butler, Pennsylvania was announced. On July 6th, the shooter registered to attend the rally and performed a search for, quote, how far was Oswald from Kennedy, end quote. Let me add those end quotes there. I'm going to do a little live editing here. Now, on July 7th, the shooter traveled from his home to the Butler Farm Show grounds and remained there for approximately 20 minutes. On July 8th, 2024, I probably don't need to even put the 2024, I would say, right? You get that if you don't know what that is. On July 8th, Secret Service agents in the Pittsburgh field office held planning meetings and did a walkthrough of the Butler, PA rally location with local law enforcement, according to acting Secret Service Director Ronald Rowe. Based on whistleblower information, Missouri Senator Josh Hawley receives, based on whistleblower information, Missouri Senator Josh Hawley received, the Secret Service site lead agent was, quote, was known to the Trump campaign to be inexperienced, to be ineffectual, to be, frankly, incompetent at their job. And that's what Senator Josh Hawley said during the interview with Jesse Waters on Primetime, Fox News, on August 5th, 2024. That same day, which would be July 8th, according to an oversight summary on Senator Chuck Grassley's government website, Beaver County Emergency Services Unit, the ESU team leaders, receive a request to cover July 13th Trump rally. Text messages between the team leaders show they were looking for 6 available guys for a 12-hour detail. One text reads, if absolutely needed, we can split the shift. As of right now, I do not need TEMS or CNT. Sorry, guys. On July 10th, Secret Service counter sniper and technical security personnel arrived in Pittsburgh and, quote, began advanced planning for their teams, according to Director Rowe. Beaver County ESU spent the day finalizing their assignments for the rally through a group text with 8 individuals. The plan was to leave Hazmat at 800 hours and drive to the rally point in Butler. Once at the site, more than likely we are going to be tucked somewhere out of sight. For anyone driving on their own because they have to leave before the event ends, one team leader texted, you can follow the Bearcat and meet us at the Meridian FD Fire Department, 121 Sparks Ave, Meridian, PA, 16001. The sniper who left early on the day of the event responding, copy. I'll be safe driving. On July 12th, according to FBI Deputy Director Abate, the shooter traveled from his home to the Clairton Sportsman Club where he practiced shooting. So the day before, Crooks went to the Clairton Sportsman Club to do a little shooting. Also on July 12th at 6:55 p.m., the final schedule is sent to Beaver County ESU group text. The presumed timeline reads as followed. 1100, command post operational, sniper positions occupied, counter assault teams in position, quick response force in position. 1300 to 1600 hours. Again, this is on July 12th, the day before the shooting. Parking open and magnetometers active. Wait, this must be, the presumed time. Okay, the presumed timeline of, should say something about July 13th. July 13th. Reads as follows. That way we know this timeline is related to what they were expecting to happen on July 13th. Okay, 1505, Trump Force 1 expected to arrive at the airport. 1620, Trump motorcade expected to arrive at the farm show. 1700 to 1815, President Trump's speech is expected to last 75 minutes. 1815, Trump motorcade will depart from the event. So that gives you what you need to know about what they were planning. I'm just going to stop right there for now. To stop right there and go to maybe some more of these videos that I have queued up. But that is what they were expecting to happen, what they were hoping to happen. And of course, we know those plans did not happen. But it's crazy to think that there were people that did not want to have a sniper there. The Secret Service agents did not say, no, we don't need a sniper. But there was a sniper that was flying overhead by Crooks on his own. I just am not buying it. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying what they are saying. Or they are saying that this guy had the sniper. I mean, the more that I learn about what they're saying Crooks did on that day, the bike, I mean, just everything just reeks. It really reeks of sabotage, at least another one or two people helping him out. We know that according to the video that we have, that there were other people that were quote unquote detained on that day too. And it's just all of these things just really lead us to think, like, why are you guys so fixated on saying this was a lone gunman theory when they can't even answer the basic questions here? How the hell do they know so certainly? How can they say so certainly and so smugly that this was a lone gunman? You can't have it both ways. And that is the big problem. They want to do a proper investigation. They want to do all these things. They can't get into Crooks's app. He's got 4 encrypted apps that he's using. He's obviously communicating with somebody. You don't need an encrypted app to communicate with yourself. So if he's using these apps, he's communicating with somebody else. Who is that? And obviously, whoever that is obviously shows to me that there is somebody else involved in this. This is just not this lone gunman theory that they want us to buy into again. And they keep it's just all they want. They just want us to think, oh, it's just one dude. That's it. He got lucky. Boom, done. And how do we fix it? Or what the Democrats will say, the Democrat congressmen who've been a part of these hearings will say, well, this is the guns problem. They just blame the guns. They don't want to look into this. They don't want to look into the possibility of it being 2 people. They love the lone gunman theory. And I mean, if it was against them, they would probably feel differently. And I think that's what we saw in the first hearing with Secret Service Director Cheadle, was like, how do we know this won't happen to a Democratic candidate? I think they were more focused on that, which is fine. But that's what happens. You know, we got to get to the truth of whatever it is.
Next, I want to provide a brief highlighted overview of the timeline that has been established to date through witness interviews and other information. Again, this is our understanding at present and is subject to change and further refinement as more facts are collected. On July 3rd, the rally in Butler, Pennsylvania was announced. On July 6th, the shooter registered to attend the rally and performed a search for, quote, how far was Oswald from Kennedy? On July 7th, the shooter traveled from his home to the Butler Farm Show grounds and remained there for approximately 20 minutes. We assess this shows advanced planning and reconnaissance on his part. On July 12th, the shooter traveled from his home to the Clairton Sportsman Club, where he practiced shooting. On the morning of July 13th, at approximately 10 a.m., the shooter returned to the Farm Show grounds and remained there for about 70 minutes before returning home again. At approximately 1:30 p.m., while at the residence, the shooter's father gave him a rifle for the purpose, he believed, of going back to the Sportsman Club. About 25 minutes later, the shooter purchased ammunition while en route to the Butler Farm Show grounds. The subject then arrived at the scene, was moving around the Farm Show grounds close to the American Glass Research AGR building, from which he ultimately committed the attack. Shortly thereafter, at approximately 3:51 p.m., the shooter flew a drone approximately 200 yards from the Farm Show grounds for about 11 minutes. The drone and controller were later found in the subject's car. Analysis has not revealed any photos or video taken by the drone, but we can confirm that he was live streaming at the time and would have been able to view it on his controller. The first reported sighting of the shooter by local law enforcement was at approximately...
Look at that. And that face says it all right. He's live streaming. Now, a lot of us have been live streaming, quote unquote, live streaming. YouTube is able to catch us, right? Social media is able to figure out if they don't like some things that we say. This dude is live streaming the rally before it happens, I guess, and they don't even know. I mean, it's nuts. It's nuts. It's baffling, but then at the same time, it's not. If you've done any research on John F. Kennedy, you may be like, wow, deja vu, some of this stuff. It's crazy.
4:26 p.m. At approximately 5:10 p.m., the shooter was again identified by local law enforcement as a suspicious person around the AGR building. And at approximately 5:14 p.m., a local SWAT operator took a photo of the shooter. At about 5:32 p.m., local SWAT observed the shooter next to the AGR building using his phone, browsing news sites, and with a rangefinder. At approximately 5:38 p.m., the photo of the shooter taken earlier was sent to local SWAT operators in a text message group. Subsequently, approximately 25 minutes prior to the shooting, the U.S. Secret Service command post was notified of a suspicious person. Officers lost sight of the subject from approximately 6:02 p.m. to 6:08 p.m., but continued to communicate with each other in an attempt to locate him. Recently discovered video from a local business shows the shooter pulling himself up onto the AGR building rooftop at approximately 6:06 p.m. And at approximately 6:08 p.m., the subject was observed on the roof by local law enforcement. At approximately 6:11 p.m., a local police officer was lifted to the roof by another officer, saw the shooter, and radioed that he was armed with, quote, a long gun. Within approximately the next 30 seconds, the shots were fired. The evidence recovery team found 8 shell casings at the scene next to the shooter's body. We believe that the shooter, fired 8 rounds. While the investigation has not determined motive, the investigative team continues to review information from legal returns, including online and social media accounts. Something just very recently uncovered that I want to share is a social media account which is believed to be associated with the shooter in about the 2019-2020 timeframe. There were over 700 comments posted from this account. Some of these comments, if ultimately attributable to the shooter, appear to reflect anti-Semitic and anti-immigration themes, to espouse political violence, and are described as extreme in nature. While the investigative team is still working to verify this account to determine if it did in fact belong to the shooter, we believe it important to share and note it today, particularly given the general absence of other information to date from social media and other sources of information that reflect on the shooter's potential motive and mindset. These are the facts, in part, that the investigation has revealed to date. While the shooter is dead, our work is very much ongoing and urgent.
Director Rowe, in your testimony here today, as well as in your written testimony, you said very, very clearly that you can't defend why that building with the shooter on top of it was not better covered. You were very clear. You cannot defend that. So my question to you is, my understanding is that there's a detailed site survey that is done prior to an event to identify potential threat points. So talk to me about that site survey. I'm sure you've had a chance to look at it now after action. And how did that site survey get approved when it was so clear that that was a major threat from that building?
Thank you, Senator. So our Pittsburgh field office did the advance. During that advance, not only were they discussing amongst themselves about mitigating the line of sight, but also they were discussing with other agencies that were supporting it. Our counter snipers met with their counterparts. The team lead and team lead met. They walked the site. They identified the AGR building. And if I may, Senator, if I could point out something right now, if I may, and we will place this for the record, but this is the point of view. This is from the second floor of the AGR building. This point of view is the point of view where the counter sniper team locally was posted. The gold arrow indicates where the shooter fired from. Looking left, why was the assailant not seen? When we were told that building was going to be covered, that there had been a face-to-face that afternoon, that our team leads met, this was the view. Let me show you another view, Senator. B. This view is a reenactment by one of my agents. Laying flat. There is a 5-inch rise on the middle of that roof. The assailant would have had to present his bore over that to get his shot off. The view underneath reflects the perspective that he would have had. Again, I call your attention back to the first exhibit if they'd have looked left. Give me C. This is what our counter sniper team saw. Shooter, no elbows. You barely make out the crown of his head. Below it, the assailant up prone. And let me just tell you, our counter sniper, this individual, I know him. I consider him a friend. He has covered me operationally in conflict zones. And when I did my time on the president's detail, he exemplifies the courage, the skill, and the ability to respond under great stress in such short time to neutralize the threat and prevent further loss of life. Getting back to your question, Senator, these were discussions that were had between the Pittsburgh field office, the local counterparts, and everyone supporting that visit that day. And that's why when I laid in that position, I could not, and I will not, and I cannot understand why there was not better coverage, or at least somebody looking at that roof line when that's where they were posted.
All right, last week's House hearing on the attempted assassination of President Trump went so poorly for the Secret Service that its director resigned the next day. Her replacement, who is a 25-year veteran of the service, did not fare much better today before the Senate. Take a look.
What more do you need to investigate to know that there were critical enough failures that some individuals ought to be held accountable? I mean, what more do you need to know?
What I need to know is exactly what happened, and I need my investigators to do their job. And I cannot,
people didn't do their
cannot
jobs.
put my thumb on the scale. Otherwise,
What do you mean put your thumb on
the
the scale?
objective, you're asking me, Senator, to completely make a rush to judgment about somebody failing. I acknowledge this was a failure of the
Is it
Secret
not
Service.
prima facie that somebody has failed? A former president was shot.
Sir, this could have been our Texas school book depository. I have lost sleep over that for the last 17 days,
Then
just like you
fire
have.
somebody to
And I will
hold them
tell you, Senator,
accountable.
that I will not rush to judgment, that people will be held accountable, and I will do so with integrity and not rush to judgment and put people
I can't believe
unfairly
that you
persecuted.
are unfairly persecuted.
Unfairly,
We've got people
sir.
who are
We
dead.
have to be able to have a proper investigation into this, Senator.
And while the acting director faced plenty of very tough questions about the assassination attempt, nobody at the hearing ever tried to claim it never happened. Unlike Meta's AI chatbot, which until today was allegedly telling users that the incident wasn't real or never happened. Meta now says that it programmed the AI to not answer questions about the attempted assassination at all, rather than risk inaccurate information being provided. They say they're working on fixing the issue. Over at Google, they're also working on fixing issues with search results.
All right, just want to pause there for a minute before we get too far into blowhard Sean Hannity. Unfortunately, I mean, damn, that's the best we got here. Come on, can't be the best we got. Of course it's not. Of course it's not. But I did want to just think about this. Think about that shooter. One thing when you think about that shooter, when he was shot, what the Secret Service acting director was talking about when they had the guy, they had their own guy to kind of reenact how this was supposed to happen. We're going to see many reenactments, by the way. I'm sure you know, all of you JFK fans, you're going to see many reenactments about this case in the same way. And what stands out to me, what I want to know is, where was this guy shot? Where was Crook shot? Was this a headshot? what is the entry and exit point? And then I'm going to give it to Catherine, and she's going to help me out with this. But the entry and exit point of the shooter is going to be very important. The middle of the head, the side of the head, this side, the back. That is going to be a very important detail. So I'm putting this here to remind myself when I, continue to look into this to see for the shooter, what is the entry and exit point? Okay, let me go back, play a little bit more of Blowhard.
Results after Elon Musk helped expose the fact that Trump's name basically will not show up in searches at all. Even, by the way, Harry Truman is faring better online. So
Let me
surprise.
see if there's anything else. I can't stand that guy. Sorry.
Senator Johnson, recognized for your questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Acting Director Rowe, in our secure briefing last week, I made the point that if you don't want conspiracy theories to spread, you need to provide information. I appreciate these photos today. These things could have been released literally within days, and a whole lot more information as well. So Congress needs to provide oversight. We don't have certain investigatory tools like you have, but what we can do is do interviews. So Acting Director Rowe, did you receive our letter from July 25th requesting interviews with 13 individuals of the Secret Service?
We are in receipt of that letter, Senator.
And I don't, Director, or Deputy Director Abate, have you seen that letter as well? Do you know who we're requesting interviews with?
Senator, I have not seen
Okay.
the letter.
Do you know whether those individuals submitted to interviews with the FBI, Acting Director Rowe?
We're in the process. Those employees are being interviewed if they have not already been interviewed, sir.
Are those interviews being transcribed?
The FBI interviews, sir?
Yes. Well, we have 302s on those.
Yes, Senator, we
Okay,
will.
when will Congress get those 302s? When will we get those transcriptions of those interviews?
Senator, I'll take that back and we'll get those to you as soon as possible.
So Acting Director Rowe, when will those individuals be made available for Congress, for this committee to interview them?
Senator, we'll make them available.
How soon? Because memories are short. They can be influenced by events. We need these transcribed interviews as soon as possible.
We will get that done, sir.
Does the Secret Service use encrypted communications at events?
On our radio nets, we do, sir.
Are those memorialized? Are those saved?
The radio
Ooh, that's
traffic from Butler,
interesting.
we did not have recordings.
Listen to what he just
Do you-
said. Listen to what he just said. Do you use encrypted? And then we go back to Crooks having some 4 apps, some 4 encrypted apps. Could be nothing. It's pretty interesting to me.
Traffic from Butler, we did not have recordings.
Do you normally
I'm gonna go back.
communications at events? Does the Secret Service use encrypted communications at events?
Boom.
On our radio nets, we do, sir.
Are those memorialized? Are those saved?
The radio traffic from Butler, we did not have recordings.
See, and that would have proven, that means they will never be able to prove that they were not in communication with Crooks. It's right there. It's right there. They will never be able to prove that they were not in communication with Crooks. On that, let me just go back. Go back a little bit.
Does the Secret Service use encrypted communications at events?
On our radio nets, we do, sir.
Are those memorialized? Are those saved?
The radio traffic from Butler, we did not have recordings.
Why
Do you
not?
normally?
Not on the road outside of DC or outside of a presidential or vice presidential stop.
So communications between Secret Service.
It's not an ex-president. This is crazy. I'm sorry. I'm going to play that again. It's so important.
We will get that done, sir.
Does the Secret Service use encrypted communications at events?
On our radio nets, we do, sir.
Are those memorialized? Are those saved?
The radio traffic from Butler, we did not have recordings.
Do you normally?
Not on the road outside of DC or outside of a presidential or vice presidential stop.
So communications between Secret Service agents will not be available like we've gotten the communications from local law enforcement.
I'm sorry, Senator. but-
So we're not going to be able to get those communications. You didn't save them,
No, sir. And
which is very unfortunate.
it is, sir. And moving forward, I've directed that we will now start recording those so that we will have them moving
So,
forward.
Cool.
and by the way, I'm going to ask for a number of things at the very end to be entered in the record, but one of my preliminary findings is that the Secret Service did not attend the 9 o'clock
Yes.
briefing the day of the event.
Ooh,
In your
I need
testimony,
this.
you said that a site briefing was conducted with
Mhm.
Secret Service personnel and law enforcement partners supporting the event. Those both can't be true. So local law enforcement do not believe Secret Service was present at the 9 o'clock briefing. Were they or were they not?
So Senator, with respect to the snipers that went on national television and gave an interview and said that they did not get a briefing from the Secret Service, they were supporting through mutual aid, and our personnel briefed the tactical team leader was leading that element that was providing this counter sniper.
So actually,
Wow. He's giving a lot of good stuff here. So he's not answering the question. Did the Secret Service have people at that 9 a.m. briefing? The answer is no. The answer is no. According to the local enforcement, according to that 23-page document from grassley.gov.senate, no. The answer is no. The Secret Service were not at. They may have met with other people. They may have met with the team lead, like he's saying here, but they did not. They were not a part of that briefing, according to local law enforcement. Now, who are you going to trust? Local law enforcement or this guy? It's up to you. Like the senator said, they both cannot be true. I'm going to go, Senator Ron Johnson, I'm going to go back to that. It's good.
Get a briefing from the Secret Service. They were
I'm going to go
supporting
back. Sorry,
through
I'm gonna
mutual.
go back.
So Senator, with respect to
event. In your testimony, you said that a site briefing was conducted with Secret Service personnel and law enforcement partners supporting the event. Those both can't be true. So local law enforcement do not believe Secret Service was present at the 9 o'clock briefing. Were they or were they not?
So Senator, with respect to the snipers that went on national television and gave an interview and said that they did not get a briefing from the Secret Service,
That wasn't
they
his
were
question.
they were supporting through mutual aid.
That's not what he asked, though. See how he's not answering the question. Were you guys a part of that meeting that morning or not?
An interview and said that they did not get a briefing from the Secret Service. They were supporting through mutual aid, and our personnel briefed the
wasn't a
tactical
question.
team leader was leading that element that was providing this counter sniper.
Acting Director Rowe, you said that the Secret Service provides explicit instructions to the locals.
Mm.
Were explicit instructions provided to cover the roof of the AGR building and locals just not follow it? Or were those explicit instructions not provided?
It's my understanding what was communicated is that the locals had a plan and that they had been there before.
So an awful lot of the chatter on social media has to do with, is there partisanship in the Secret Service, providing coverage for some individuals and none for others, about Secret Service coverage or additional coverage enhancements being denied. Was there ever requested additional coverage for Mar-a-Lago?
Senator, we have provided additional resources to the Mar-a-Lago
What
residents.
was coverage asked for and denied ever?
I'll have to research that, Senator, but I'm happy to tell you we have made significant investments since the former president has left office, over $4 million
Again,
of technology, resources, and alarms.
Documents will
Yes,
come
sir.
out eventually to make the point one way or the other. This is an important piece of information that Congress needs to have.
Senator, we'll make
there's-
those available to you, the
there's-
investments we've made.
There's a report today by Susan Crabtree of Real Clear Politics saying that you denied sniper coverage outside of driving distance of DC. Is that true?
That is a false statement, sir.
That is incorrect.
That is incorrect.
Okay, I mean, that's the kind of information you need to refute with documentation. Deputy Director Abate, you said this was an assassination attempt and domestic terrorism. It's obviously
assassination attempt. Why make the distinction? What is different about that?
We think it's important to cover all the possibilities here and the reality of what we're dealing with and what we've all seen, Senator. And we've learned lessons from the past. The tragic shooting at the baseball field was referenced here. We've learned the lesson from that. That was not opened properly. And we've made changes in the Bureau, and it's reflected here in terms of how this investigation is being approached with a completely open mind and inclusive of all the possibilities, including domestic terrorism.
I fear that makes the investigation potentially partisan. Mr. Chairman, I would like to request that my July 14th letter to Attorney General Garland, Mayorkas, and Wray be entered in the record. It asks for all kinds of information, documentation, asks a lot of questions. My preliminary findings of July 21st and July 23rd, including timelines, a bunch of questions as well, be entered in the record. And then our updated timeline dated today. This goes not only by minute, by second, and we will continue to update this timeline as more information becomes public. This is the way you do investigation. We need to find out literally second by second what happens. So the American public understands the truth.
Without objection, so ordered.
Senator Butler. Should that roof have been secure, period?
That building in particular has a sloped roof at its highest point. And so, there's a safety factor that would be considered there, that we wouldn't want to put somebody up on a sloped roof. And so, the decision was made to secure the building from inside.
You pointed out, Congressman, that the shooter didn't have any problem getting up on that roof. And if you look at pictures of the counter sniper team, they were set up on a roof that looked like it had exactly the same slope. So what do you make of that excuse?
I think there's a crisis of confidence right now at the top level of the Secret Service, not the agents on the ground, but the head of the Secret Service. And many of my colleagues have been expressing the same concern. For her to make a statement like that, it raises even more questions. Why wasn't a counter sniper team on that rooftop? And as you pointed out, the other roofs had similar slopes. The shooter had no problem maneuvering that roof himself. And so, whether she took this seriously enough or not, we surely haven't gotten the answers that we deserve. And we're going to get those answers. And frankly, there needs to be accountability. Unfortunately, one of the things we've seen from the Biden administration in so many areas of failure is that there is no accountability. And at some point, if somebody doesn't do their job properly, you need to bring in somebody else. This is too important of a job. Your one task is to protect the presidents of the United States and former presidents of the United States. And, all of the other stuff that she's focused on is way outside of the mission. And I think she might have lost sight of the mission.
You got to wonder if she's going to keep her job. She was asked about that in this.
Now, I just want to ask how people feel about this. Do you think, let's say, if what happened to President Trump on July 13th, 2024, if that happened to any other president, including Joe Biden, if you believe he's the president, if that would have happened to Joe Biden, would the response be the same? Would the outcry be the same? Would the investigation be the same? I'm asking for a friend who's writing a book called Fight, Fight, Fight. That's all I'm doing. I'm just asking for him. Let's go back.
This brand new ABC News interview. Here's how she responded. Listen.
Who is most responsible for this happening?
What I would say is that the Secret Service is responsible for the protection of the former president.
So the buck stops with you?
The buck stops with me. I am the director of the Secret Service. It was unacceptable, and it's something that shouldn't happen again.
Makes you wonder about her future.
We sat down with Director Kim Cheadle today for an exclusive interview.
What was your reaction when you saw the events unfold on Saturday?
Shock, and then concern, obviously, for the former president. This is an event that should have never happened.
Who is most responsible for this happening?
What I would say is that the Secret Service is responsible for the protection of the former president.
This is where I would say, whoever pulled that trigger is responsible. You can blame the Secret Service, and I do. You can blame, the authority, blame whoever you want for whatever, but they did not fire a bullet at President Trump. That is ultimately the person to blame is the person who fired that shot. Now, everybody else, we can talk about who should have some blame, why things, the blame for whatever, but the blame for taking a gun and shooting at President Trump has to be on Crooks. Now, if that's the official theory, which is what we're going with, because we're going to see where the facts take us. So you start there. Let's see what happens next. Because she's awesome. All right? She's cool.
So the buck stops with you?
The buck stops with me. I am the director of the Secret Service. It was unacceptable, and it's something that shouldn't happen again.
The president and Homeland Security Secretary said today they had 100% confidence in you, but there are some members of Congress calling on you to resign.
I appreciate the Secretary's comments, and we're going to continue to be transparent and communicate with people.
You plan to stay on? Absolutely.
I do plan to stay on.
Director Cheadle says she will not wait on an independent review of the security failure. She says she plans to make immediate changes. We learned today she's already expanded the tactical or SWAT support for former President Trump.
First of all, let's put up some VO here. People identifying the shooter on the roof. Listen here.
There he is right there. Right there, see him? He's laying down. See him? There he is.
Because we have millions and millions of people. He's on the roof. We have people that should not be here. Right on the roof.
All right, you can hear them saying, officer, there's somebody on the roof. Apparently, an officer climbed up there. Crooks apparently pointed his rifle at him. The officer jumped back down off the roof for fear of being shot instead of engaging him. But here's what the Secret Service Director Kim Cheadle said about why they didn't have anybody up on that roof.
Director of the United States Secret Service, Kimberly Cheadle, speaks exclusively with ABC News, taking responsibility for that stunning breakdown in security.
This is an event that should have never happened.
Who is most responsible for this happening?
What I would say is that the Secret Service is responsible for the protection of the former president.
So the buck stops with you?
The buck stops with me. I am the director of the Secret Service. It was unacceptable, and it's something that shouldn't happen again.
Minutes after Trump took the stage Saturday in front of thousands of people, gunman Thomas Matthew Crooks wounding the former president and 3 others before a Secret Service counter sniper took him out.
I'm being told that the shooter was actually identified as a potential person of suspicion. Units started responding to seek that individual out. Unfortunately, with the rapid succession of how things unfolded, by the time that individual was eventually located, they were on the rooftop and were able to fire off at the former president.
ABC News now learning that heavily armed local police were actually stationed inside the building. The gunman climbed, but they missed him. Butler town officials confirming that after they became aware of the threat, a local police officer climbed up to the roof and confronted Crooks, but did not succeed in stopping him.
What was your reaction when you saw the events unfold on Saturday?
Shock and then concern, obviously, for the former president.
Investigators now trying to determine whether roof access had been properly locked down. The shooter climbing up seemingly unimpeded, about 400 feet from the stage, with a direct line of sight on the former president.
Should that roof have been secure, period?
That building in particular has a sloped roof at its highest point. And so, there's a safety factor that would be considered there, that we wouldn't want to put somebody up on a sloped roof. And so, the decision was made to secure the building from inside.
Cheadle says the Secret Service was responsible for the inner perimeter of the rally where Trump was, but local police were responsible for the outer perimeter where the gunman was located. In Washington, lawmakers demanding answers, calling on the Secret Service director to appear before Congress.
And this goes back to where this could be why some people were actually saying, hey, we'll give you a drone. We'll give you a drone, because if you're not going to have somebody on that roof, if you're not going to have somebody up there, let's have a drone up there. So why not? If it was too hot for people to be up there, if there was, if you felt like they wouldn't be able to find their balance of gravity or whatever, for whatever reason, if you're not going to put people on that roof, why not have a drone fly over, especially if somebody offers it. That's what's crazy. We have two instances. Local law enforcement said, "Hey, you need to put somebody up on that roof." Secret Service didn't do it. Like she says, the buck stops with me. It stops there. Somebody else said, "Hey, we'll give you a drone." Not only that, but if you read that 24-page the actual after action report from the local law enforcement, if you read that, you will see there's somebody there. We're talking about drones and how they offered them a drone. You will see there's somebody who actually, not only they hand wrote drone. To me, it looks like drone. I'm pretty sure that's what they wrote, is drone in handwriting, because there was no drone mentioned there. But we have testimony that kind of backs that, not kind of, but does back that up, that there were people that were offering drones, to have drones there on site at this location. They said, no, we're good. So some people knew a lot better than what the Secret Service did. Okay.
The former president.
So the buck stops with you?
The buck stops with me. I am the director of the Secret Service. It was unacceptable, and it's something that's acceptable, and it's something that shouldn't happen again.
Minutes after Trump took the stage Saturday in front of thousands of people, gunman Thomas Matthew Crooks wounding the former president and 3 others before a Secret Service counter sniper took him out.
I'm being told that the shooter was actually identified as a potential person of suspicion. Units started responding to seek that individual out. Unfortunately, with the rapid succession of how things unfolded, by the time that individual was eventually located, they were on the rooftop and were able to fire off at the former president.
ABC News now learning that heavily armed local police were actually stationed inside the building. The gunman climbed, but they missed him. Butler town officials confirming that after they became aware of the threat, a local police officer climbed up to the roof and confronted Crooks, but did not succeed in stopping him.
What was your reaction when you saw the events unfold on Saturday?
Shock, and then concern, obviously, for the former president.
Investigators now trying to determine whether roof access had been properly locked down. The shooter climbing up seemingly unimpeded, about 400 feet from the stage, with a direct line of sight on the former president.
Should that roof have been secure, period?
That building in particular has a sloped roof at its highest point. And so, there's a safety factor that would be considered there, that we wouldn't want to put somebody up on a sloped roof. And so, the decision was made to secure the building from inside.
Cheeto says the Secret Service was responsible for the inner perimeter of the rally, where Trump was, but local police were responsible for the outer perimeter, where the gunman was located. In Washington, lawmakers demanding answers, calling on the Secret Service director to appear before Congress.
We will be transparent, both internally with my own folks and externally with members of Congress and with the American public. That's what the public deserves.
The president and Homeland Security Secretary said today they had 100% confidence in you, but there are some members of Congress calling on you to resign.
I appreciate the secretary's comments, and we're going to continue to be transparent and communicate with people.
Do you plan to stay on? Absolutely.
I do plan to stay on.
All right, so you're gonna get this is a great video. The audio, there's no audio to this. It's like 21 minutes. I should probably put that in there. 22 minutes of no audio. This is one of the best videos that I've seen. This is before the shooting happens. So just go to BWC2-122104. BWC2-122104. Good luck finding it. $1809 6:10. 6 p.m. 6:10. So just, I mean, we're here in the few minutes here. It's coming up. Only 1.5 minutes away from the actual shooting. And I think his name was Dylan, where I found this video. I'll try to find the source, because I could not find the source, could not find this video for the longest time. I found videos talking about it, but where I found this video, I definitely want to point people there, because he's got all these raw videos of this, of just what happened there. If you really, for research purposes, it's one of the best sites. Just don't remember his name. I'll have to look it up later. I know I subscribed to him, so I should be able to find it quickly. There we go. The flag is already upside down. For this person as he's walking here. So to the left is the stage. Right, we're at 7:13, so boom. We're at he's booking before. Look at the time in the upper right, 18:11. Unless his time is off. Could be off a little bit. Yeah, time on his cam must be off. Maybe. There he goes, pointing. They know exactly where the shot has come from. Look at the time. The time may be off by a minute or two, I feel like, but if it's GPS, if it's accurate, you have to look into that. And there's 2 police cars right there. There they go. Everybody's going. The video speaks for itself. I'm just going to let it play a few minutes here. It's a good video.
This morning, it just may be the most far left agenda in our country's history on a presidential ticket.
Because the Democratic ticket is now set. Governor Tim Walz's record in Minnesota includes everything from tax-funded health care for illegals to so-called gender-affirming care for minors, just to name a few, as we've been doing this morning.
Joining us now for his first TV interview, his reaction to this ticket that he's fighting against them to have the right to go to the White House and become the 47th president. Let's welcome the 45th president of the United States, GOP presidential nominee, President Donald Trump. Mr. President, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
So
Thank you.
Your
Good morning.
reaction to Governor Tim Walz joining Kamala Harris to go against you and J.D. Vance?
I would say my reaction is I can't believe it. I never thought this was going to be the one that was picked. I know him a little bit. I helped him very much during the riots because his house was surrounded by people that were waving an American flag. Doesn't sound like very bad people. And he called me and he was very concerned, very, very concerned that it was going to get out of control. They only had one guard. I guess it was at the mansion or at his house in some form. And he called me. I said, what do you want me to do about it? I was in the White House. He said, if you would put out the word that I'm a good person. And I did. I put out the word. I said, he's a good person. I hope everything's good. And everybody put down their flags and took their flags with them. But they took their American flags and their MAGA flags and they left. It was thousands of people. And that was the first time I said, wow, that's very interesting. And he called me back and he thanked me very much. That's my only thing I ever had to do with him. He's a very, very liberal man, and he's a shocking pick, and I'm thrilled. I could not be more thrilled.
Yeah, I mean, when they selected him, it's really a gift for you because this election is all about the issues, and all of y'all have records. You've been the president. We know where the economy stood. We know what your record is. We know what Kamala Harris's record is, and we know what his record is, and they are extremely progressive. Talk about how you're going to handle this on the campaign trail. Will you just really hone in on how they voted in the past?
Well, I am. I'm going to be doing that. What he wants. If you look at his record with no walls, no security, let everybody in, he's worse than they are. You know, nobody knew how radical left she was, but he's a smarter version of her. If you want to know the truth, he's probably about the same as Bernie Sanders. He's probably more so than Bernie Sanders. She is more so than Bernie Sanders. That's got to be your guide, Bernie Sanders, and that's not a great guide. But there's never been a ticket like this. This is a ticket that would want this country to go communist immediately, if not sooner. We want no security. We want no anything. He's very heavy into transgender. Anything transgender he thinks is great. And he's not where the country is on anything.
Mr. President,
this is a shocking, let me tell you, this is a shocking pick. And I think it's very insulting to Jewish people. And I think it's very insulting to people that want security. I think it's very insulting to anything having to do with making America great again.
Mr. President, is it true that your team thought for sure that it was going to be Josh Shapiro? Because there was one reporter who was at a J.D. Vance event yesterday, and there were some flyers printed up talking about how J.D. Vance, rather about how Mr. Shapiro was a fraud and corrupt and a lying con man and stuff like that. So it sounds like you were ready to take on him.
That sounds like what you would say.
Well, look, I'm no big fan of Josh Shapiro. I know the state very well. I think we're leading pretty good in that state, but I would have said it would have been a better choice. I would have said others would have better choice. And interesting, just about all of them, except this one, is better than her. She is not nearly as good as the people she was looking at. I know them all in one form or another. And in fact, there was a poll done and there were some studies done. She's the worst of the group, and she's the one that's leading it. Look at this decision. This is a really bad decision for the country. You know, ultimately, I want the country to have good decisions because ultimately what we want is for the country to do well. The country can't do well with these two people. They're very similar, and you know, you would have thought she would have reached out and got somebody that's got some different, because her record